transition to there. Hey, we're going to try this. Can you hear me? This is my question to people out there. Not you. And nobody can hear you. All right, hold on. I'll let them hear you. Hold on. Now they can hear you. You can hear me. Okay, good. So we're going to go outside. Whoa. And there goes my keyboard. We're just in time for the healthcare cheer, which we're going to try this out. Never done this before. Pardon this. I'm using the back camera. Should be starting soon. Let's see. I do not live in a forest. There's some noise. There's the air horn.
Someone's car alarm just go off?
Where does he live?
Burnaby.
Turn off my audio on my other screen.
Sorry, there's not a great view here. I have a lot of trees in my yard, just covering everything up. Okay, I think we're pretty much good there. My neighbor's kids, I think they think that it's Halloween, so they're making ghost noises or something. It's pretty cute. Okay, so let's swap over to see everybody.
We're back, babies. And Torin is donning a medical mask.
Sorry, I'm back on with my mic on here. Okay.
That's how not to do it.
That's one way of not doing it. Yeah. There are others.
Many subtle ways of doing it wrong.
Many, many more ways of doing it wrong than doing it right.
Okay, so here we are. Rob, do you want to do the intro this time? I'm going to have a drink right now.
Yeah, you bet. So tonight our guest is Jason Chamney. He's a physical education instructor, fitness trainer, and the owner of Fitness Science, a personal training and physical fitness equipment company in Vancouver. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chamney.
Welcome.
Thanks,
welcome.
Rob. I'll if it's okay.
Yeah.
So Fitness Science is a personal training company. Yes, it's also a corporate fitness consulting company. Rob is among our network of personal training clients, and a lot of our client base in recent years, probably the past decade and a half even, have come through the corporate sector. We started doing corporate consulting back in the mid-90s, where we would build gyms for companies and go in and deliver programs for them. And from that model, we worked as a fitness consulting service of convenience to people in the workplace. So therein lies our connection to fitness equipment. We've built gyms for businesses in the Lower Mainland and a few abroad as well. And in doing so, we build the amenity and go and deliver services and programs.
All right.
But of course, given recent history, all of those amenities are closed, and our practices are muted from that perspective, anyway.
But you found, and we'll get to this a little bit later. You found an interesting way of helping folks stay fit at home, and we'll talk about that as part of a sort of an overall spectrum. But we exist. If you think about, say, fitness trainers and doctors, we're kind of two halves of a spectrum. My job is kind of getting people who've fallen off a baseline back up to a baseline, whereas
Fair
you're
enough.
trying to take people from a baseline and get them up to a peak. So here's a basic question. I was thinking about this, and I don't know if I have a good answer. Maybe you do.
Maybe.
What is physical fitness?
That's a really good question. And given how fitness is conceptualized in today's world, you could have some answers that are really superficial. But from my perspective, it's always been what your body can do, not necessarily what it looks like. I could care less if you're 4 feet tall and weigh 250 pounds. If you can run the mile in 4:18, to me, that's just that much more impressive. So basically defining fitness as performance, your ability to do things, is where we're coming at from that perspective. We were talking about my perspective on what I do before we came on, and as I've aged, I've tried to attach to that performance element an element of health as we get older. So using methods that will not only improve your performance as an individual within your own life, whether you're an athlete or a business person or just a parent, not just a parent, I'm just a parent, a parent or whatever you do, but also elevating your health as you get older. So your ability to enjoy your life as you age.
Okay, so we've already got a question from the chat. Can you define what you mean by performance?
Yeah, I guess I can. It's something that's individual to everyone. So what you can do, what you're capable of doing, whether that is purely in a cognitive realm, or if it involves something physical. So if you're physically fit, you're probably more capable of performing well in all aspects.
Helping someone move.
Right, helping someone move, but moving would be a physical element. So if you're just Joe individual, being able to climb a flight of stairs more easily, being able to pick up your children, being able to, lift your groceries. A lot of people who aren't even that old have difficulty with those kinds of things. So improving their ability to perform physical tasks is one thing, but improving your ability to perform in all elements of your life, I think physical fitness contributes to that.
Right.
Sorry, I've noticed, well, as somebody whose physical fitness has declined in the last year and a half or so, like I've been able to notice those things.
Fair enough.
So my dog passed away a few years ago. Very sad. But he was the reason I got out and walked and moved a lot more, because I wanted to take him for a walk almost every day. And just that 1 hour walk every day, like, improved my fitness and my ability to move around and carry things and like you mentioned, climbing stairs. I was at the mall the other day and just walked up a set of stairs, and I got to the top and went, why is this so hard now? Yeah. And it's exactly that I just had. And so I put it in my head, I'm going to start walking more, which I've been doing the past few days. Like, this is a totally new thing.
Excellent.
But yeah. So totally, I get what you're saying about things you can do. And another thing is, I used to have the belief that it was, again, about the way you looked. So for me, it was very much tied to weight and stuff like that. I still want to lose weight, but that's mostly because I'm lazy. And if I'm, and I mean it, because like I used to be 262 pounds. I'm about just shy of 5'11", 178 centimeters. And when I lost weight, I realized that I didn't mind moving as much because I wasn't carrying around. Like, I actually ended up dropping at one point almost 100 pounds to about
Yeah, I was
160.
going to say, I don't have a
And
scale on you, but you don't look like anywhere near
I'm
260.
back up to about 200 now, and it's not good. And
Fair
so
enough.
I'm back up to 200. So I'm literally carrying 40 pounds everywhere that I don't want to be carrying. I can't imagine being 160 pounds and then putting a 40-pound pack on and walking around and being happy with that.
Yep.
But then I start seeing people like Lizzo, who is a very large woman, and she does like intense performances every night when she's on tour. And she's big and in way better shape than me, even though when you look at her, you would think she's not. So her physical fitness is much higher than me. So it's been good for me getting out of that look and towards what you're talking about, performance thing. So yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, anyone. But body composition to me is just it might be an obstacle in some situations, but it's just a symptom of other things. And if you can work with it and still perform the way you need to, like an Olympic hammer thrower. I mean, they need mass, but if anyone tells them they're not fit, they could just chuck them out of the arena.
Yeah. Right.
But anyway, body comp is not everything either. Six-pack is not fitness to me.
I got a 1-pack. How is that, Ray?
You only need 1 pack, really.
Okay, good.
It's got to hold stuff in there.
Fitness trainer said that to me. Fitness trainer said that to me.
You're good to go, man.
But what can you do, Torin? Actually, I think Torin, you walk a lot more than me. I've seen your Facebook.
Well, I used to bike to work when I had a job that wasn't at home every day. That's like you, Joe. I'm in the decline. But I busted out the Kinect, and I hurt my shoulder playing Star Wars Kinect. So
Star Wars Kinect.
Everything's great.
It's don't Rob. I hate it. I hate it.
Oh.
There's
okay.
It's a dancing game, and you have
no. That's only one aspect. You can also be a Rancor monster and destroy cities.
Okay, that's cool.
So there's lots of other stuff. That's like one of the 5 different ones. Well, we won't get into that.
Yeah,
just so it's not just
a well-rounded Star Wars fitness game.
Okay, so it's not just the prequels of Star Wars games.
There's Han Solo dancing to the song "I'm Han Solo." It's terrible.
I have to say, I was watching the first episode of this podcast or vlogcast, and was relieved to know that you guys were no strangers to Dungeons and Dragons and that whole realm. That's something that I grew up with, I'm a big fan of a lot of the same things as you guys are a big fan of.
Okay.
That's the realm of mathletes, not athletes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I started in honors physics and quickly drifted into phys ed.
All right,
Physics, physical education.
Yeah,
I see how the dots connect.
Vaguely connected. I just couldn't keep up. Let's put it bluntly.
I'm going to use this time to plug my streaming role-playing game, which is going to be Tuesday at 8:30. I think we're doing it on the same channel. So if you come here Tuesday night, you can watch us do a superhero role-playing game that I run.
So for those of us who are socially distancing and not getting out of the gym, fitness has become a challenge. And I noticed for myself, even just the first 2 weeks, the level of deconditioning that set in was really noticeable and quite rapid.
Yeah.
What are you hearing from your clients in that regard?
The same thing I've heard for 3 decades. It really doesn't take long to detrain. Those enzymes shrink when you don't use them. And
enzymes, you say?
Yes, the things that produce energy, they shrink like shrinking bubbles. And if you don't continue to address those systems, you just get less fit.
They go away.
They go away. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And people don't notice it when they're lounging around their homes, but if they have something physical to do, they might notice it. Or I did say body composition wasn't a big issue, but if you're metabolizing less and you're eating the same, chances are you're going to accumulate more.
Or bored and eating more.
Bored is another problem.
This is diet soda, by the way. There's 0 calories in here.
Good job.
Don't get me started on that. But anyway, yeah, clients are having difficulty. They're feeling lethargic. They're feeling unmotivated. They're feeling disabled because they can't go outside. They don't have the gym. They don't have the same resources as they had to maintain their fitness as they had before. So you got to get creative. You've got to just do something every day that stresses you a little bit.
So this brings us to fitness at home, and I'm hoping that at least some of our folks are interested in some of these ideas. So what are some aspects of fitness? So you've kind of described it at a high level. Now, if we kind of talk about it in terms of nuts and bolts, what are some different aspects of fitness? And is there anything about being at home that is an intrinsic barrier?
Well, you don't have space necessarily, but really, we know that you can stay pretty fit in a prison cell. So that's not necessarily
good idea.
Yeah, let's just get arrested.
Somebody was saying earlier, steal a car. Problem solved.
But space is one issue. Equipment is another. But in terms of actual limiting factors, those aren't just excuses, but you can still work effectively. You don't need a ton of weight to do strength training. You don't need a running path or a treadmill or a bike to do some kind of metabolic training that's going to take you into one realm of aerobic or anaerobic training as you need to. It can get really boring marching on the spot in your living room, but you can alleviate that with a good series on Netflix or whatever. But
or listening to the darkest of the hillside thickets.
That's right.
Again.
That's right.
I've become a big advocate of workouts for a time-scarce world in the past 10 years or so. So using intensity over duration. I think you still need the longer, slower, more rhythmic, lower intensity stuff as part of your package in terms of your fitness training world. But you can get a lot of benefit from shorter, higher intensity work. So to somebody that might mean, okay, I need a lot of weight in my house. I need to really, increase the load that I'm using. But there's other things that you can adjust and adapt to add intensity to a workout.
Such as?
Such as. So if you're looking at adding intensity for a metabolic session, you can do work with incomplete recovery. So a work interval of some sort. Take a really simple exercise like marching on the spot. So high knee marching on the spot. You can make that a skip or a run on the spot if you're a little more fit, but say you're not. And you want an effective workout where you're just using that one exercise. Let me put the caveat in here. If you're working with intensity, you're not going to be able to watch a series on Netflix. If we're using intensity to add to the training volume, you're going to have to focus on what you're doing while you're doing it. And you can get a really effective training stimulus in as short as a minute if you're working hard enough. But for most people, probably you're looking at 8, 10, 12 minutes, which is not a lot of time. So what do you do in that 8, 10, 12 minutes? You have work intervals doing an exercise, take marching on the spot again, and then you have incomplete recovery. So say you're marching on the spot vigorously for 60 seconds at a time. And then you're going to take a little break so that you can do that again. Now, the work to rest might be 1-to-1. You might need a full minute to get recovered to do that with that same amount of intensity again. So you take a minute rest, and you do that again for another minute. If you do that 6 times, that's 12 minutes.
Is this high intensity interval training?
Yeah,
right.
it's one version of it. It's a version of it for whomever that is intense for. And that's another thing. You have to make this specific to you. And really only you can do that. I work with people quite a bit, so I can tell by the look on their face, by their respiration rate, by the color of their face, by whether they're throwing up in a garbage can, how hard they're working. But really, it's up to you to determine what that high intensity is. And if you've never done high intensity interval training, you don't want to start off at a 10 out of 10 and try to keep that going for even 4 or 5 minutes. You want to start off maybe at a 7 or a 6 and just work with that for the first time out.
When you say 7 or 6, what does that number mean exactly?
That means out of 10, how you feel relative to your maximum possible effort that you could put in.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So it's pretty subjective.
So perceived effort level.
It is perceived. Yeah, exactly. So it's an RPE, rate of perceived exertion, but it's that means something different to everybody. I think, and what it means to you is the most important. It's not heart rate training is, it's not particularly effective necessarily unless you've got some other metrics behind it. So using subjective rate of perceived exertion is something that I've done for a long time, and it's safe, but people can still progress. So you can still see metrics change. So whereas you might have done, 120 high knee steps in that 60 seconds for that 12-minute period, the first time you did it, 3 weeks down the road, you might be able to do 180. That's just an arbitrary number, but another thing that's important is keeping track of those metrics as you go, as you move through the process, keeping track of.
And as
something.
you improve,
Exactly.
it's going to take more exercise to make you feel like you've worked out at a 7 or an 8 or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And there may come the day when you feel like, hey, today I can push it to a 9 and give it a whirl, and whatever that means for you is fine. But at the end of the day, just do something every day. This vessel we're in was meant to move. It wasn't meant to sit and, do what we're all doing right now, sit in a chair. And there are definitive benefits to making it do what it was meant to do.
Another question from the audience. We've got someone who's currently got upper respiratory symptoms, possibly COVID-19. What kind of fitness could that person do that's gentle enough not to aggravate breathing and weakness? Or should I just be sitting and doing nothing while I'm sick?
It's a very good question. And to tell you the honest truth, I'm not qualified to answer it, and I'm not sure anybody is.
Might be Rob's to answer.
It might be, but I'm not sure there's data on this. Like, there's what kind of training should somebody with COVID-19 be doing?
Yeah. This is a disease we have 4 months of global experience.
It's really.
Although if you're doing the perceived effort, I think if you're not breathing well, you're going to hit that 7 or 8 much quicker.
You might already be there.
And already be there and be like, well, I walked around the room a couple times. That's enough.
Yeah, but is that a wise idea at that time?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like you're going to be exercise in and of itself is a stressor. And we don't get fitter by exercising. We get fitter by recovering from exercise. So if you walk into a workout with your fitness component X at this level, when you walk out of the workout, you're not here. You're here. And then the time spent during an optimal recovery situation causes a supercompensation, and that's a training effect. If you're sick, are you going to have a training effect? Are you going to be enhancing your wellness? And that's if there's one thing I wanted to drive home today, I didn't really have anything I wanted to drive home today, but
drive it.
It would be to be cautious. Like fitness is not going to fix you. Fitness is not going to prevent this. It might reduce your risk if you improve your fitness of getting this, just because of all of the all the risk factors are things like smoking. If you're exercising, you're probably not smoking a lot. If you're exercising on a regular basis, that is, you're probably going to be less likely to have type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, all of the risk factors for contracting the virus that exist, you might be less likely to have because you're more fit. And I would stand to be corrected on anything that I'm saying today by Rob, because he is a medical practitioner in the room. But nonetheless.
Yeah, I guess the only modification I'd make, you're probably just as likely to contract the virus, but because you have fewer of those other risk factors, you might end up with a less severe manifestation of the disease.
Right. Maybe greater, pulmonary capacity would improve your situation with the.
Well, that was what interested me in having you on, was because there was some there was some research out of the Hong Kong flu outbreak in 1998 that individuals with moderate levels of physical fitness had better survival compared to sedentary individuals.
Is that true?
Yeah. So
greater pulmonary reserve, that.
Quite possibly, yeah. Who knows for sure? But there's some link between a certain level of physical fitness and improved survival, or at least there was in that outbreak 22 years ago. I don't know if we have any data on that yet with COVID-19, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, this is it's a pulmonary disease. It affects pulmonary compliance or stiffness of the lung. It affects the heart, which has to increase higher driving pressure to get blood through a stiff lung. So higher cardiorespiratory fitness may protect the heart from that stress load by having, the heart already being somewhat conditioned prior to experiencing that pathophysiologic stress of illness.
Right.
But I'm just even being that vague, I'm still guessing.
No, it's theory, right? It's pretty new.
In time, we're going to find out, because all these studies are going to get done, right? Because they're going to end up having been millions of cases of this by the time this gets stamped out, or maybe this first wave. But eventually we're going to have a vaccine. We're going to get this under control. And then we're going to want to find out for sure, all right, who did well, who did poorly. We know that there does seem to be a link between hypertension and fatality. There does seem to be a link between excess weight and fatality. There does seem to be a link between smoking and fatality. There's theories as to why this is, but you nailed all those three factors. The blood pressure, smoking, and carrying excess weight are all specific risk factors for mortality from catching the virus.
Right. Good. Yeah. Fingers crossed that fitness helps.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't, it helps all sorts of
working
others,
his ass off, let me tell you.
Yeah. So if we were to look at, say, helping the folks at home establish some kind of a basic routine that they could start, what would that look like? What would you say? Okay, here's the thing. Start with this. This is safe. It's gentle. It's effective. You can progress it at your own pace.
Yeah, there's a lot of fitness practitioners online that have been firing their, resistance band workouts out there, and they're, do burpees, jumping jacks, and high knees, and with this particular prescribed interval of work and rest. And that's the tricky thing about it. There's no real general prescription, not that I have the scope to prescribe anything, but no real general recommendation that you can make other than move every day. And I would say if you've never moved before and you're looking to improve your fitness for the purpose of boosting your general health and immunorobustness, if that's a thing, it's not, but just start with something simple that you can do. Whether that, and so to back it up from a training perspective, at Fitness Science, we're functionalists. So we believe the human body was meant to move in certain ways. So we train the body that way. So we're not training people based on bodybuilding. We're not taking parts and isolating them piece by piece within your body. We're training your human body as it was meant to move in life. So what are functional movements?
Chasing a lot of cheetahs.
Chasing cheetahs.
Yeah.
Or being chased by them, probably more. Yeah, and losing that battle, because that's never going to happen.
You still got to run, though. You got to make a try.
Running is one of them. So motility functions, all of those things, running, crawling, swimming, I guess, not for me, but for maybe somebody else. Walking, all of those motility functions. You could even include in today's world, cycling and rowing and those types of things. All motility functions are functional movement, in my mind. Other things that we need to do to exist in the world would be pushing, pulling, squatting, lunging. So lowering your center of mass with your feet side by side, lowering your center of mass with your feet in stride. Because when we were evolving as a species, we didn't have these things to sit on, and probably we weren't going to be able to move bush to bush, picking berries, sitting on nicely located rocks in front of the bush. Anyway, so squatting, lunging, pushing, pulling, rotational patterns like paddling and chopping are also functional movements in my mind. So how do you structure that? Take a couple of those patterns. Take a squat. So like you would do to sit down in the chair that you're sitting in, but take the chair away and then stand up from the point where the chair might have been. That's a squat. Any kind of a push. So a push-up pattern, whether that be a normal standard push-up from toes to palms planted on the floor, or you modify that to change the leverage to make it a little bit easier by planting your palms a little higher, or going from your knees and shortening your lever, that is your body, and making the push a little bit easier. So pairing those two exercises back to back, and make it something that's doable. So do 10 squats if you feel like you could do 15. And if you feel like you could do 6 push-ups, do 3. Back those things onto each other with a little bit of recovery such that you could maintain form on both of those things. And I really can't get into specifics on form for all functional movements within a video chat where we're sitting face to face. But it's on YouTube. Good form for push-ups and squats is there. Yeah. And put those things back to back for 3 or 4 rounds, and that's a workout. Yeah. And it's simple, and it's something that you do that will enhance your function going forward. The next day. Sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead.
The next day, do something different. So that's from a periodization perspective, which is just basically the scheduling of your workouts. Do something different than you did the day before. So if you did squats and push-ups on Monday, on Tuesday, go for a walk or whatever, take your pick.
What about organizing your closet?
Organizing your closet is...
Because my closet has a bunch of boxes in it.
That would involve
taking them down.
That's deadlifting and possibly overhead pressing. Yeah, man.
That's a workout. I don't know what do you do on Tuesday?
What about wrestling with your partner, which may lead to some sexercise?
That's way more fun than what I just described.
Thanks for reminding me I'm home alone, Tarn.
Yeah. But anything active, and I'm just describing things from a simple perspective, but you can make it more complex. The thing you have to be careful of with more complex movement patterns is if it's more complex, there's a better chance that you're going to do it wrong. So if you decide to organize your closet, and there's a whole shit ton of boxes on the floor that are full of books, you better know how to deadlift. If you want to know how to deadlift, go to YouTube and figure it out. Keep the line of the road.
My dad always told me to lift with my back and not with my leg, but I'm not sure he had my best interests at heart.
He was completely right.
Your dad was a real problem.
Certainly from a back health point of view. Yeah, it sounds like.
There were many other reasons, but yeah. Torrin, time for your friends to leave.
Go clean out your closet.
Yeah.
So you've talked about...
That's a different closet I got to clean out.
So we don't have to start heavy duty in order for it to actually be a competent training stimulus, one that actually does stimulate improvement in strength or cardiorespiratory capacity.
Any kind of metabolics, yeah.
So it can be simple, it can be brief, which is kind of good news. Also, emphasis on functional movement rather than isolating. So no, you're not a big fan of preacher.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I mean, bicep curls are functional for drinking stuff, I guess.
And heavier bicep curls.
Yes, and for heavier bicep curls, yes.
Yeah.
But if you want to work your biceps, do a pull pattern, which is actually a really good point. Pull patterns are the one functional strength movement pattern that are difficult to do without any equipment. So we've had to dive into online training and online groups, like every other fitness provider out there, and we're doing group training without equipment. So we've got a lot of push dominant workouts going on right now in that spectrum, because in order to do a pull, you need something to pull on. You either need a rope hanging from something that won't move, or very few people can do a full pull up from a fixed bar above their head. So you
if they have a fixed bar at home.
Exactly, assuming that, because the shower curtain's not going to hang tough with you pulling on it.
Learn that the hard way. Woo, boy.
Resistance bands are great, but not everybody has them. And setting those up to work at the appropriate resistance isn't always correct. If you've got a resistance band from some physio to rehab whatever injury you had 6 months ago, it's probably not going to be enough resistance to do a fully loaded pull pattern for anybody. So the pull patterns are tricky. You need to get creative with that box of wine, I think.
This reminds me of a video that really helped me kind of move my lazy ass to just the bare minimum, which is up on YouTube. It's from Doc Mike Evans. It's called 23 and a half hours. And he's a doctor who says, so people ask me, what's the number one thing they can do to improve their health? And he says this intervention, it lowers knee arthritis by 47% for people who do it. Depression, I think, by 50%. He goes through all of these things. Diabetes is, I think, 58% lower. And he says, so what is this one thing? And he says, spend no more than 23 and a half hours sitting or lying down. So basically, at least a half hour a day, get up and move around. And that little bit allowed me to start exercising more and then walking more and doing more things myself. And it's the difference between just sitting on your butt 24 hours and 23 and a half hours is enormous in the difference in your health. So that for people who like me, who are like, well, I don't want to start working out and worrying about that stuff, but I just want to be healthy, at the very least, get a half hour of moving around in.
Yeah, that's good advice. I would say it could even be less than that, but at the end of the day, you're right. I think a half an hour in general of moving, but from a focused workout perspective, you can do far less and get a lot of benefit, in my experience. But yeah, that's really good advice.
I'll when we post this up on the website, I'll put a link to that video. It's a good one.
Cool, nice.
And as one of our commenters said, can't get those back muscles stronger if you don't. So yeah, pulling. It's definitely the missing link in home workout programs. You can carry on. You can push. Well, how would you break this down? I mean, when I think about fitness as a client, I think about pushing, pulling, core, which is like belly, back, and legs.
Yeah, I don't break it down by part. So core would be a stabilizing group to me. And core for me is not just midsection. It includes everything that stabilizes in every joint, from your hips to your shoulders to your feet. But what was the question? How would I break it down?
Yeah, but it sounds like you don't. But if somebody wanted to kind of make an exercise routine that was more or less kind of hitting every hit minus equipment,
right?
You've talked about.
I talked about squatting and lunging and pushing and pulling and rotating. But yeah, at the end of the day, all of those patterns. So squats, you can go online and you can see how to do it correctly. But say you don't have any weights at home. How do you make a squat more difficult? So I'm doing 30 squats, and this is no longer a problem. I can do this all day long. Well, at least 30. How do I make an effective work interval without actually adding load, without actually adding kilos or pounds to the lift pattern? And the answer is you can change, well, one of the answers is you can change how you're doing that pattern from a timing perspective. So you can change the squat to a squat jump. So rather than coming up out of the squat and just standing, you can actually jump. And then when you land, you go back into a squat immediately. Now that's a pretty complex movement pattern, and it's something that you better be pretty proficient at the initial movement, which is the squat, before you start trying. Another way that you can do things that's much safer is manipulating the tempo of the movement. So whereas with a normal squat, I'm going to do a demo. Look out.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
This is what we've been agitating.
Can I do it without unplugging my headphones? So if I do a squat, trust me, I'm doing one. I'm lowering my center of mass. My hips are sitting down between my knees. My arms are forward to counterbalance me. I'm sitting in a squat right now. It kind of sucks, but I'm in the most difficult part of that range of motion. So if I slow things down and change the tempo from, this would be sort of normal squat tempo. So about 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down, thereabouts. If I slow that down and make that 5 or 10 seconds down as I drop.
Hurts me to watch that.
This is horrible. This
my
sucks
quads are burning.
And then if I come up slow, the concentric slowing of tempo is even more difficult. So when I'm coming up out of the hole, if I slow that down, it makes it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
What I recommend to people, if they want to use tempo to manipulate intensity, that they start with that eccentric part, so the lowering. So going slow through the drop, which coincidentally is also the place where most people lose form. So if you're going slowly and then you come up with normal tempo, that's going to make the set harder. It's also going to make it longer. But if I do 10 of those squats, as opposed to just 10 normal tempo, it becomes more horrible. But you get more benefit from it.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Let's just make it harder.
No extra weight.
Exactly. No weight required. And I actually only recently discovered that type of tempo manipulation. I've always done, or not always, but for the past 10 years, I've done 1 day a week of super slow training. So I go through slow concentric and slow eccentric, loaded squats, not squats, pardon me, lunges, push-ups, pull-ups, and I can't really stand anymore after the lunges, so I do a leg press. I use a machine. I'm ashamed to say. But a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I had a knee injury, a patellar tendon issue, and that tendinopathy was I just couldn't beat it. And I started doing a type of training that I saw promoted by a physiotherapist, where you just slow down the eccentric part of the movement. So I started doing my lunges, my Bulgarian split squats. That's a big name for an exercise. My squats, everything, with just a much slower tempo on the eccentric phase. And lo and behold, my tendon issue got better. But I also noticed while I was rehabbing the knee tendon that those workouts sucked a whole lot from a metabolic perspective. So I was getting metabolic benefit from that training while rehabbing my injury, and so I to this day I still do those types of workouts, and I've recommended them for my clients as well.
Yes, you have. Yes,
I have. Sorry, Rob.
So if
they look terrible.
Go ahead, Joe.
The Bulgarian split squat looks terrible. I googled some images. Ugh.
Did you pop that up? Yeah.
You put an Eastern European especially country name in any workout, and that's the signal that it's horrible.
Yeah, Russian anything, bad. It's true.
So if individuals were interested in fitness classes from home, that's something that Fitness Science is offering.
It is, yeah.
How would they dial into that if they were interested?
Well, if you send an email with the subject line viral transmissions promo to info@fitnessscience.ca, we will give you the rest of April free in our online classes.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
There you go. I just made that up.
So 2.5 weeks, try before you buy.
There you go. Exactly. And all the classes are functional. All the classes are, it's new for us. I'm not going to lie. And our instructors are doing a great job. But we're learning at the same time as you about how to work with the online format of fitness instruction, but it works.
So info@fitnessscience.ca.
That's right. 3 S's.
And that's 3 S's.
You got it.
All right. We did not know about this promo. It's just suddenly coming up. So
it just popped into my head.
Yeah.
It's happening in real time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already a paying customer. I don't need the 2 weeks free.
You've been really kind, Rob, I have to say, with this whole stuff that's gone on.
I have a question for the fitness trainer and the doctor. Stretching or no stretching? Is it helpful? Is it useful?
When are you doing it?
I don't know. You tell me.
Before, after?
You don't know when you're stretching?
No.
I can't help you if you don't even know when you're doing it. Does that mean not doing it?
That probably means not doing it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm less about stretching and more about specific mobilization. Like if you've got just stretching for the sake of stretching, I don't do it. It's useless. If you have a functional reason for increasing a range of motion in a particular joint, then it has merit.
Sure.
I
just remember all the times in like phys ed, you gotta like stretch before you do the exercise.
Yeah, don't do that.
Stretch after the exercise. And I'm like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, if you're gonna stretch, in my opinion, stretch afterwards. And when I say stretch, I mean I'm talking about static stretching for the purpose of elongating whatever muscle group that you're looking to elongate. If you're looking to prepare for movement, then don't do static stretching.
Right.
Practice whatever movement you're going to be doing.
Can you show us a quick static stretch so that we know what you mean?
I feel like I'd be wasting your time.
Okay.
Yeah. No, honestly, I do static stretching very infrequently.
Okay.
I think that means stretching on a shaggy carpet, right?
What's that?
Stretching on a shaggy carpet. That kind of static?
Yes, that's exactly what static means. You're holding a position of stretch for whatever period of time. The merits of static stretching, I mean, as an athlete, I used to do a general warm-up, so go for a trot. I was a track athlete. And then do a whole pile of static stretching. If I was doing it again now, I'd probably just do dynamic preparation. So maybe some dynamic mobility stuff. So high knees, high heels, things that were getting my body ready to perform as they were about to.
Just move things is what you're right?
Move things specifically to what you're about to do.
Right.
So if you're going to squat, slowly go through that range of motion. Try that out. Practice that out. If you need to do that with support, then sit down on a chair, stand up from the chair, or hold a rail and sit down and stand up.
Mm-hmm. Somebody suggested, Cake Raptor suggested, close a spare bed sheet in a door and hang on to it while you squat so you can maintain proper form without falling.
It's a great idea. Yep. Anything that you need to do to modify or to provide the load that you can tolerate, you should do. A bed sheet hanging from what?
From a closed door.
A closed door. Yeah, that'll work. Might wreck your door, but it's your door.
Or the bed sheet.
Perhaps.
Only recommend it with old doors and old sheets. But not so old that they would tear, causing you to fall.
That's right. Disclaimer here.
These methods are not endorsed by Viral Transmission.
Yeah, don't listen
good call.
to us.
Or Fitness Science.
Go after Cake Raptor 1 if that's that hurts you.
A progression for a squat, a good progression for a squat that I would recommend would be a box squat. So, as I just mentioned, sitting down into a chair and standing up from that chair. So if you take the same demo I was just doing, here we go again. So I push this chair back. I'm sitting down. My ass is now in the chair, standing up from that. So at the most difficult part of that range of motion, I'm actually resting a little bit. So and the less you rest, so the more you can just sort of tap down and then come up again, the closer you are to being able to do a full range squat. And I've got tons of clients who are, 60 plus, 70 plus, 80 plus even, who could not do a squat when they started, but you start them with box squats and they progress up and they're able to increase their range without the assist.
Smashing.
Sweating with the oldies.
Yeah. That's what happens when you become an old trainer. You get a lot of old clients.
That's us now,
me
Tom.
now. Yeah. And I've definitely noticed now on the wrong side of 50 that deconditioning happens fast, way faster than it did at 40 and below.
It's sad but true. Yeah, it gets harder and harder. And when we get to an age where we feel like we've earned that right to just say fuck it and not bother training,
your muscles don't care, man.
Yeah,
they don't care.
They don't.
They're going away. Oh, you don't want us? We don't want you.
That's exactly right. Don't
screw you, pal. We're out of here.
And your metabolism doesn't care either, because the amount that you need to eat every day to maintain the equilibrium goes down, but your appetite stays the same.
Yeah. So where's the dial?
Right.
Where's the appetite dial?
So
Jason?
even if you keep eating the same amount of calories and working out the same, as you age, you're still going to gain weight, because your body is burning less calories just naturally because you're older now.
Yeah, you're on a
terrible.
You're on a whole other biomechanical slow drip after 30, and it just gets worse and worse. If the
biomechanical slow drip.
Biochemical slow drip is what I meant to say.
A biochemical slow drip.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's a thing,
isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's med school 101 something, right?
Yeah. Biochemical slow drip.
I just need to make calorie-free potato chips, and then I'm good. Can somebody work on that, please?
I'm sure somebody is.
Yeah, they're made of cardboard. Salty cardboard.
So do we want to hit any other virus of the week news?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
You had some.
Did you guys hear about the study in Germany?
Which one?
The one where they were testing antibodies versus antigens.
Convalescent serum? Like taking serum from people who'd recovered?
No, they weren't taking serum. They tested 1,000 people in 400 households and just found the infection rate to be much, much higher than they knew of from the antigen testing that they were doing.
There was a critical part of what you said that got all fuzzed out, and I didn't hear it.
Sorry, they tested 1,000 people in 400 households, and they were just looking at infection rate based on antibody testing rather than antigen testing.
Okay.
Apparently, they've got a more valid antibody test than some other countries. and found the infection rate to be much, much higher. Do you know of John Campbell, UK physician? He's got a podcast. But anyway, I was watching him and this study.
So I think I've got it. I think I've got it here. This is the one German town, and 14% are now immune to COVID-19.
What's the name of the town?
Gangelt.
That's it. Gangelt.
Yeah. Near the border of the Netherlands.
That's it.
It was hard hit by COVID-19 after a February carnival celebration drew thousands to the town, turning it into an accidental Petri dish.
Oops.
Right.
So yeah, 14%, which means that they've had it, and maybe even if they haven't completely recovered, their body has at least started creating the antibodies to fight the infection.
They have the antibodies, yeah. The interesting thing that I got from his podcast was that if you have the antibodies, you could have immunity. And this is projected, and it didn't sound like it was too definitive, for 18 months. So he was thinking that the German government was going to start to issue immunity certificates. Does that sound like something?
Mm-hmm.
I think I've heard about that. I mean, because it would be really nice if people who are immune knew they were. I mean, you probably know if you've had a severe case, but there are probably folks out there. I mean, here in BC, the approach has been, well, look, if you have respiratory symptoms, stay home for 2 weeks. And at some point, it's going to be really worthwhile to find out which of those people just had colds and which of them had coronavirus, so that we can say, all right, look, it's safe for you to be out and about. You don't have to kind of shelter in place when the next pandemic wave sweeps through. You know, folks, that will be a really important thing to have, that immunity, especially while we're moving towards a vaccine, because, you know, we're going to want to know who are the nurses, who are the immune doctors, bus drivers.
Yeah, people in the workforce. I think that's where what they were getting at was having people who were immune be the people who were on the front line going forward.
Which would be fantastic. And I mean, our provincial health officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry, has said, yeah, it's going to be really great when we can get an antibody test and we can deploy that widely, because all the people who've been told to just stay home, well, you know, let's find out who's who, and then get a truer picture of who had the disease. Because right now, we don't have the resources, nor even the need to test everybody. You know, it's much higher risk for you if you have upper respiratory symptoms to head on down to the testing center, get tested, and get told to quarantine anyway, right? So we already know what we're going to do, and all that's happened is put people at risk heading on down to the hospital, getting the swab in the back of your nose, and then heading on home. And it doesn't change the treatment. It doesn't change what we recommend. But later, we definitely want to, for statistical purposes, to find out, okay, how lethal is this disease? What percentage of people get the severe cases? What percentage end up in ICU? What percent don't make it? And who the heck's immune? So all that stuff's going to be really important in retrospect to figure. So yeah, every day I think there are questions about antibody testing in the BC review, and so far, at least from the BC perspective, they haven't seen an antibody test yet that they're convinced is that impressive. So it hasn't started rolling out in Canada anywhere yet, but it's obviously of high interest, and lots of these tests are coming forward saying, pick me, but we'll see which ones actually withstand.
Did they have something in South Korea that was, were they doing antibody testing in South Korea, and has that been shared? Do you know?
They've certainly been doing a ton of testing for the direct viral RNA, so through PCR testing, but I'm not aware antibody testing has been rolled out anywhere. Yes, and as Dr. Marshall, our biologist and number one fan, says, calibrating our models is important for the medium to long term, and we need numbers. Indeed. Katie, are you aware in real time of any validated antibody tests out there? It's not something I've seen, but it's not something that I've tended to see day after day. I just listened to the news brief and let Dr. Henry say, nope, nothing yet. And I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me. Now she's actually busily searching Google.
I Googled, and there's a New Statesman article from 5 days ago. The government's game changer antibody tests are inaccurate. What next is the title. That Boris Johnson hailed them as a potential game changer. In the UK, they ordered millions of pregnancy test-style home kits, which have now found to be ineffective. Public Health England's Professor John Newton told The Times on 5 April.
Wow.
So...
Did they help with determining whether or not you're pregnant?
Maybe. 14% of people are not immune. They're pregnant. Oops, we bought the wrong thing.
So that would feed back to that German study, how active there. And
right.
So there's probably a big question mark hanging over that as well.
Yeah, but the German, you know.
This is this is the thing about science is that one test with science has to be repeated before you can actually declare that the finding is true. You have to check and double check and triple check and have all sorts of people.
The thing works.
Yeah, yeah.
Back to the fitness realm. As far as new stuff, I don't know if you guys have heard about the Belgian-Dutch study, which talked about running and cycling outdoors and the slipstream of droplets.
Oh yeah.
So don't bike behind
the red and green dots.
Yeah. And honestly, the range that they're recommending is like, I've been going for outdoor runs since this happened, but I've been cutting pretty wide swaths since I read this.
Now I think that was a bad test.
Or just make sure you're already in front of everybody else. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
If I could,
the thing about that was a that study turned out to not even be a study. So there isn't even a research paper. There's some Belgian engineers who created a model.
Yeah, it's a pre-sheet, isn't it? Isn't it?
Pardon me?
Is it a pre-sheet or no? Not even.
No, it's not even a pre-publication study.
Okay.
The guy, so the guy said there's going to be a white paper coming. The white paper was just another news article about the study, and he said there's going to be something coming on LinkedIn, and it's just been silence ever. So it seems like it's a model that he just kind of cooked up on his computer.
And that's why I'm here. Thank God.
Yeah, right. So I've been running outside as well, and I've been picking roads that where the old rail line used to go. So they have really wide central boulevards. So First Avenue is a great example of this. And I run in the middle of the boulevard. So I'm like 10 meters away from everybody. And we're like 4 or 5 weeks. Well, actually, no, really, our lockdowns came, March the 13th. It's April the 12th. Happy 65th anniversary to the polio vaccine, by the way, 65 years ago today.
Hey,
is that true? Wow.
Yeah. So that was when the Salk vaccine got approved, and that hit newspapers around the world, especially across the U.S. So let's hope one that we see hashtags COVID-19 vaccine. We're not there yet, but we're hoping. So that's kind of how I've been doing it, and I see power gives way to sail. I'm the one moving under power. So if I'm coming up on walkers, I feel like I'm the guy that needs to carve the space around. I don't need to expect them to move. I noticed a lot of runners using really poor etiquette. So when I go walking, I only walk at night. But when I run, it's much easier to react to other runners. And when I'm coming up on walkers, I'm the guy that's going out. Because the way I view it right now, if there's no traffic, lines on the road are just paint. And there are bigger considerations than jaywalking right now onto empty streets. So I'm more than happy to run right down the middle of the yard if I've got walkers on the right and on the left, and I just need to find a way through that traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell anybody, Rob.
Breaking the law for a higher purpose.
Everyone will get that idea.
Well, they should. Vancouver should have more closed down streets for social distancing with physical exercise. That's my editorial comment for tonight.
Right.
Should we talk about the Vancouver protest to end the lockdown
that
you linked, Rob?
This is painful. This is the most painful 42-second video today. It's from the 5G crowd, and this is one of the conspiracy theories that's really kind of gained some traction, is that the symptoms of COVID-19 are not caused by the coronavirus. They are caused by 5G radiation. And a group of 5G radiation folks were hanging out by the Save-On and the Canadian Tire near 6th
Street.
And they said, we're here downtown Vancouver with this massive crowd. It's like, okay, you're not downtown, and there's like a dozen of you, and the video only gets wronger from It's well worth considering, just so you can avoid becoming a social example. It's a demonstration. It's like a commercial of all the things you need to avoid to be a good human and a good citizen.
He's going on about how dare the government tell us what to do.
Jesus.
And it reminded me of
about drinking the Kool-Aid, which is a red flag. Everybody says,
I'm
not going to drink the Kool-Aid.
And like I've seen a bunch of like anarchists actually have arguments on Twitter about whether or not they should be, listening to what the government says about social distancing and stuff, because they don't trust the government. And somebody replied with a quote from Mikhail Bakunin, who's a famous Russian anti-authoritarian anarchist. And he says, "Does it follow that I reject all authority? Perish the thought. In the matter of boots, I defer to the authority of the boot maker. Concerning houses, canals, or railroads, I consult the architect or the engineer." So like, this is not the government telling us that we should do this. The government is passing along information from experts who know what they're talking about. So even if you are an anti-authoritarian who does not trust the government, the experts who study this, who have wanted to keep people healthy their whole lives, who went to school to like want to keep people healthy, who are advising this to their own families, who have access to all the information, are telling us all this stuff. And you are a nuclear grade fool if you don't listen to them at this point. Like, this guy is just out of his mind. He's also advertising how to protect yourself from EMF radiation, which I guarantee he's making money at. Remember those guys at the Maple Ridge thing we went to, Rob?
Yeah. And that was years ago.
That was. Yeah. We went to a Maple Ridge meeting of the city council about Wi-Fi in schools or something like that. And the people on the panel being anti-Wi-Fi literally had a business teaching people how to how to Wi-Fi proof their houses.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So they were just there to like sell their own bullshit.
It was a 2-hour commercial.
Yeah.
/ panel discussion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was brutal. It was brutal.
Great.
Stay smart, folks.
Yeah.
Stay skeptical in the good way. Not, I'm skeptical. Why aren't you skeptical?
Yes. Scientific skepticism, which means let's look at the good evidence for either side.
Apportion the belief to the evidence.
Yes.
That's all we ask.
That's the Hume quote.
Look at some countries who have gone through it. I mean, just talk to an Italian doctor. I mean,
Italy didn't just suddenly switch on 5G and then.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Italy doesn't have more 5G than the rest of us. Neither did China.
And England doesn't have more than Ireland. Well, I mean, maybe England has more than Ireland, but they've got way more COVID-19.
That's another Twitter thread that we were looking at today, which is they started off with pretty much the same number of ICU beds per capita, like 6.5 per 100,000 for Ireland, 6.6 per 100,000 in the UK. But there are basically twice as many deaths per capita, or maybe even more in the UK than in Ireland. And that's because Ireland very quickly shut down. They shut down before St. Patrick's Day.
They were built for this.
Yeah. They shut down the pubs a week before Ireland, before St. Patrick's
Day.
Right? In
and
Ireland.
Yeah.
Like that is them doing the right thing. And at the same time, England was having like giant concerts and saying, go out and enjoy yourself. And now we're seeing the results of that. So listen to the freaking experts, people. Like if you want evidence, it's all over the place, because we are seeing multiple types of responses to this, and we are seeing the effects of those various responses. And the places that are doing what Ireland has done and what we in BC have done, which is clamp down early, push social distancing, push wash your hands, those places are doing better than other places. Like, without a doubt. There's no doubt in this at all. These people who are anti this stuff are just completely irrational.
Early
Don't go to Southern Alberta.
Early response. That's how you get victory.
It really when you look at how that math works, I've also seen a few videos on how humans are very bad at understanding exponential growth. That we just don't understand the whole, I infected 2 friends, they infected 2 friends, and so on, right? The whole, but which would you rather have, $100,000 or a penny a day that doubles every day, right? And it takes very little time for that penny a day that doubles to become more money than there is on the planet, right? But people are all like, oh, I'll take the 100,000. I mean, the penny's just a penny. But exponential growth is a thing we just don't get in our heads like very easily. And you have to recognize that it's a big, big deal. And you got to stop those pennies from doubling as soon as you can.
Stop the pennies.
Okay, rant over. I'm done.
No, good one.
So
Rob, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I've got a few clients who are doctors. One I was speaking to the other day, and she's moved to Ottawa. She's an anesthesiologist in, I'm not sure what hospital in Ottawa.
Okay.
But she had somebody else stop her in the hallway of the hospital and say, "Thank you for your service." And she thought to herself, that's what they said to people going to war. And she's written a blog article about it. I've not seen it published yet, but she said, I didn't sign up for that. Like when she went to study medicine and become a doctor, she wasn't doing so, with the intent of risking her life to help others. And I that makes sense to me. Like, has that been something you've thought about at all?
It's something I've thought about. I mean, because I'm, the specialty I'm in, psychiatry and nuclear medicine, things would have to be so horrendously bad before they've got psychiatrists intubating that, at that point we've gone through all of our anesthetists, we've gone through all of our critical care specialists, we've gone through our internal medicine specialists, our general surgeons, our emergency physicians, our family doctors, and I'm like the last guy standing in the corner.
No, I'm going straight to you, buddy.
Somebody hands me the laryngoscope and the endotracheal tube.
But and you've got a YouTube video on how to do it on the side, and you're like, okay, let me see.
Yeah. Like my first struggle would be like turning the light on. It's, I'm a little rusty. I remember handling these things around 2001 when I was an intern. My worry is about kind of what you could call the psychiatric pandemic wave, which is going to happen, I think, after we've got our grip on the medical crisis. And I think there are going to be a lot of people who've suffered with this disease, people who have suffered from the big social shutdown effects, and especially frontline providers. So doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, hospital workers of different varieties, community pharmacists who've been seeing patients every day and dispensing medication. Those folks, I think, are going to, some of them anyway, are going to have alterations and struggles in their psychological makeup that is going to be really difficult for them. And the call has gone out here in BC anyway for psychiatry to be available to kind of for that sort of support, to support care providers who are experiencing psychological difficulties. I put my name on that list. I'm happy to say that so far the call hasn't come, but it certainly could. And, I'd be happy to kind of provide that second level of support. But yeah, I think a lot of doctors who got into medicine never really thought about the possibility that they might get swept up into a global pandemic, because it's just not something really think about, other than all
something
the kind
that
of
hasn't happened in 100 years.
It hasn't happened in 102 years. Yeah.
So
unless you count H1N1 in 2009. And for that, we had a vaccine, and that was a lot less lethal. But, this is like Spanish flu stuff. You read about it in books, and it's something that all the nerds that go into public health and epidemiology, they think about it, right? But the rest of us are just kind of out there doing the clinical job day after day. And I think this is probably, in retrospect, going to end up having a lot of care providers who are busy right now, just doing the work. But it's when that frenetic pace slows down, but the mind doesn't slow down. That's when we're going to find who's been injured psychologically.
I've actually seen, speaking of supporting the healthcare workers in their struggles and how they need that kind of thing, a friend of ours, actually, Torin knows him. I'm not going to name him because of what I'm about to talk about, who is himself immunocompromised and has to stay at home and stuff like that. He has actually found, because he's been very, very lonely and he's been like looking for connection, he's ended up kind of cybersexing with healthcare workers. And he's dominant himself. We're getting into a little kinky stuff here. And he, even though he's straight, is now, because he appreciates the healthcare workers, he's like online doming even male healthcare workers, because they're just coming home from work and they need that outlet somehow. And they can't, hook up with anybody and anywhere. So he's happy to help them out. He says nurses and doctors and things like that now come to him for that little thing that they need to help them keep going. And so I think in all sorts of ways that there are ways that we can help them, whether it's the kinky stuff or, I think the healthcare cheer, the 7 o'clock cheer probably helps a lot.
Makes online personal training seem kind of ridiculous. No, that's great. Thank goodness.
I hope that this broadcast might help, knowing that some of us are out there trying to spread the word. I mean, this is all I can do, really, be an internet guy and help try and spread the word.
Well, I think there's significant value in countering misinformation and disinformation, because there's no shortage.
Yeah. It's become pretty obvious to me that at least 30% of humanity is just not very rational. It's not an absolute. I'm sure in some ways they are rational, but like, just generally it seems like 30% of humans just don't get it, whatever it is, whether it's unwavering loyalty to a certain completely worthless president or right. It doesn't matter how low it goes. It goes to at least 30, it goes to 30% and then stays there, because those people support him no matter what. And it seems like close to that percentage of people are not listening when it comes to this COVID-19 thing and what they need to do. I worry for humanity.
It's a fair thing to worry about.
Sorry to get close to the end on that downer.
Well,
do we have any good news? Is there any good news to try to end this with?
You have good news. Squats, we know that.
I have no penguin news this week. Sorry,
no penguin news this week.
Should have had.
We can circle back to the an epidemic of a previous time, right? Polio. What did it take? It was so 65 years ago. So 1955, and the virus was first isolated for polio in 1906. So that was 49 years from virus isolation to a proven vaccine. It is not going to take us that same amount of time to get a vaccine for this virus. A year and a half would be a miracle, but not impossible. And there are already phase 1 trials that were underway, within 65 days, not, 65 years. So the smartest people on the planet, the smartest and the most dedicated people on the planet, who went into science because they wanted to be part of something larger than themselves and make a difference, they're the ones out there solving this problem right now. And wow, I for one am so happy that that's the case, and they're going to deliver. So that's I guess my good news rant.
Baroness Elsa has a good one, which is that the pandas are mating finally, because people people aren't coming to zoos. They can only get off
while there's a pandemic happening. That's their thing.
They just value their privacy.
Panda right in the name.
That's too good.
It's just with the people not showing up to the zoos, the pandas are finally getting it on. All they needed was some privacy.
Nice. Good to know.
Yeah, good for them. Humans, the cause of problems again.
So thanks, Jason, for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks again to our very busy chat tonight. We're starting to see who our regs are, and we're happy to see you. We're happy to kind of create community space that you all seem to like hanging out in. And we'll see you 7 o'clock next Sunday.
Yeah, right. We'll do the healthcare cheer again because that worked with the phone. I think I don't know how well we heard, but
it sounded great from your balcony. We couldn't see anything except trees, but the sound was great.
Next time I don't know how far my Wi-Fi reaches, but maybe I'll go out in the street. I live on a cul-de-sac, so I live on this little cul-de-sac that's soon going to get completely leveled to be high rises, and all around me is high density, and I'm in this one aging little place of little houses and trees. Yeah, I'll be gone soon. Trees. All right. Let me turn that off, and there we go.
All right. Stay safe, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chatting. Thanks so much, Jason. Really good stuff. And we'll see you all next week.
All right. Ciao.